What's up, everybody? So, as much as people like to talk about timing and fuel and all that other crap, and how many lies and stupidity is running around the internet, I figured instead of just making fun of slow people, either which way you want to take that comment, I would try to educate. So, let me tell you some stuff about how we come up with proper fuel and timing for all of our vehicles. Let's talk about GM to begin with. GM decided to live and die by the NOx sensors. So if you ever look at a stock tune, it's got a ton of timing in it for pump gas and all that other stuff. They basically took the car right to the threshold. What they did do was put some NOx sensitivity in the car that was basically unneeded had they had done different NOx protocols. But instead, they rely on the NOx sensors to make the difference. What I mean by that is in, let's say, 40, 50 degree air, not a lot of humidity. The car is going to give you 24 and a half degrees of timing and somewhere around 12.5, 12.7 air fuel ratio. Now, in non ideal weather, they rely on the NOx sensor and their NOx protocol to pull away and to fuel. So, what they do is they basically pull timing. As soon as it sees some NOx, they leave that timing pull in there. And at a certain point, that timing pull will actually start to affect the fueling. I didn't think that was necessary, nor did a buddy of mine. So what we did was way back in 2016, bought a plex sensor, put it on the car, got some dyno time, did some other things, found out what the real knock sensitivity needed to be for 93 octane with real knock retard versus how GM set up the protocols. Through that though, we were able to figure out what is real max timing. And the funny thing is now on pump gas, we don't even run 24 and a half degrees. We run under that. Um, it just didn't need it. So we didn't find any power there. So we took it back from what GM actually does. Now, let's talk about what actually dictates proper timing for an engine. So some of the main things, basically, cylinder pressure is king. Other than that is octane, injector type, chamber design, and your target AFR for whatever you're doing. So for almost all of our NA stuff, we're either, basically E85, quote unquote, which will, change its octane rating or whatever you want to call it throughout the seasons and whatnot. But with the way that GM designed the chamber and the compression and basically end-all cylinder pressure, and this also goes if you're cammed or if you're not. DCR is king. I'm not going to explain DCR right now. If you don't understand it, read about it. So you have to, cam cars have different timing than freaking non-cam cars. Milled heads on a stock cam, have different timing. C85, E85, X85, C16, all those stuff have target stoiches and timing that they'll handle. The other thing people don't take into accountability is chamber design. There's a lot of different chamber designs. Some are more accurate than others. Some run better than others. Some are designed for certain things. And that also goes into piston design and flame propagation or flame travel, flame front, however you want to say it. So with a DI motor as well, the fueling is a lot more accurate and it's a lot more atomized. So timing and fueling become a critical issue. Now, if you were talking port injection, it's a lot lazier, slower, doesn't fill the chamber as well. And the LS ports, or the chambers, I should say, weren't as well done as the LT for the most part, nor were the pistons. So if we get into like LT4 stuff, the LT4 is what you'd call a soft chamber, kind of an open chamber design. It's got a flat top piston basically. So if you're going from a round to a flat and where the flame kernel starts, plus you're starting with 10-to-1 compression, really not a lot of boost. So normally, these guys that boost, let's say a base LT motor, that's 11.5-to-1 compression. You're already down a full 1.5 of compression, and you're talking not a whole lot of boost that goes into these motors. So at that point, there's really not a lot going on that you need to worry about timing for. However, what we did decide to do is we actually backed down from GM stock timing. Also, not a tuner that eliminates a lot of the, timing tables from what GM did. I happen to believe that GM engineers are probably more intelligent than I am. So they created all those spark tables that do different things for different conditions in different places. So um, taking that into account, I I utilize those tables. So a lot of stuff that they do, relying on the knock sensors to do their work, I don't believe in. So we pull timing because it was unnecessary. Then we also utilize all the tables that they gave us to ensure that during different weather conditions, altitudes, octane ratings, and all other stuff, we're good. Um, what a lot of people don't understand also is what spark it takes to ignite certain fuels and how the fuel delivery gets there. So let's take methanol for an example on an LT motor. You can only put so much methanol through the rotors, and that becomes a distribution issue. Most guys want to go through the rotors, which makes you extremely limited on how much methanol you can actually put into the car. So the one we started going to was the 4 nozzle design, which there's still distribution issues there. So we're going to come to market with a new product pretty soon that will correct all the distribution issues on, let's say, an LT4 blower, or I guess you could use it on any PD model if you really wanted to. So we're still working through that. However, pump gas on these DI motors, low compression, all that other stuff. You know, I'm not a fan of pump gas in the least. It's basically piss water. So at a minimum, get some methanol in there. Huge power gains. Then C85, E85, whatever. When you start combining those things, your burn rate either slows down, speeds up. Then you have to start getting into, matching stoiches and whatnot. So if the stoich of, let's say, E85 and C85 is different than methanol, you need to start doing the math and figuring out what air-fuel ratio works best for you and how much timing it'll take. You have to take into consideration, like I said earlier, the combustion chamber and the pistons and all those things. So it always makes me laugh when I hear guys, oh, he overtimed the motor, whatever. It's like, did I? Or do you just not know what you're doing? And that's a big factor too. A lot of these guys think that I'm not even going to help them out. There's a lot of people that, don't realize how to utilize all the tables and what they do and what they can do for you. And our results speak for themselves. We run richer air fuel than any car I've ever retuned, I've ever gotten on my dyno. Most PD guys or FI guys, other tuners that we get, are somewhere in the 12.2 to 12.5, some all the way up to 12.9 air fuel ratio, which car's just not going to live. Sorry. We shoot for 11.5, 11.7 at the leanest. The problem becomes how much fuel can you get in there? How much fuel do we have available? So as we progress through this stuff, we're finding alternatives. The other thing too is, since I port cylinder heads and all that stuff, I can do things inside the cylinder heads that make them better, that make them less detonation prone. I'm not buying my cylinder heads from Johnny down the street and then selling them to my customers and acting like I know what I'm talking about. So through basically experimentation, I think I'm at like 846 gens that I've tuned so far. It may be over that now because I do about 10 a day lately. So, through all that development, product development, building my own cars, record holding cars, both, on the NA side at some points and on the FI side at some points, been able to develop a pretty solid program, of how we come to our, knock protocols, or how we utilize knock sensors, how we utilize all the spark tables provided to us by GM, the spark numbers that we run in certain places, and the air fuel ratios we have decided on. Anyway, at the end of the day, our basic approach is we treat every car differently. We take it to the max power level it's going to take with the proper air fuel and timing in it, and then we pull 2 degrees of timing after that, where basically we stop where there's no more power to be gained, and then we back up 2 degrees, and a lot of times I add 1% or 2 of fuel. So, at that point, with the amount of cars that I've tuned, how fast they are, and with, the relatively minor to none failure rates at this point, like I really don't see a point in changing what I do. So I just thought take a moment to explain how I get to what I get to, the way I do things. Seems to be a lot of rumors and a lot of talk, usually just slower people that need to maintain business. You know, instead of actual information, it's just rumors. But now you know how I conduct business. Thanks.